Hi guys, hi Shriyansh, hi Alpheus, hi Purvi. Alpheus, even for me, I used to love Judith Pulgar. I've even read their book. It is named Breakthrough. Hi Prateek, hi Seema. Seema, yeah, there was some error with the stream key, so I had to change a few settings and then start all over again. My OBS kind of crashed. Hi Aryan. Chessboard, I think I like the wooden one or even the blue one. It's fine for me. Hi Purvi. Chess base. I think you can use any chess base. Any chess base is good. Hi Sandeep. Hi Amir. Any chess base is fine, Seema. I think 14 or 16. I personally use the 15th one. So anything is fine. I think the main purpose of chessbase is to see the games and just to um, have access to mega database and the live book and everything. So if you have that in the chessbase, I think even it's possible to do that in the 12th one. So any chessbase is fine. So guys, today we are going to see a few games by top women players, women chess players I mean. Just give me a second. Let me quickly check if the quality and everything is fine, because there was some error with the stream key and I had to start all over again. Just give me a second, guys. Okay, cool. We are live. Hi, Harshal. So today we are going to see uh, top female players games, and these players, there are many more women players which are amazing, but I just thought that all of these are the first ones to achieve either the grandmaster. For example, Nona Kaprindashvili was the first one to get a grandmaster title. Then we have Koneru Hampi from India, who was the youngest grandmaster, and then her record was broken by, I think, How You Fan. Hi Ashish, thank you for the super chat. And Purvi, happy Women's Day. Seema, for you too. Aryan, I have never played against any of these players. I've had a photo with them. Like I've had a photo with Humpy in a chess league. Then even with How You Fan in Isle of Man. But other than that, I've never even spoken to them. So it's going to be interesting to watch their games. Let's see. I'm even going to ask you a few more because there are some tactics involved. And um, in fact, if you've seen Queen's Gambit, the character of Beth Harmon is very similar to Nona Gaprindashvili and Maya Chiburanese. Like it has some characteristics of both these ladies. I think, and in fact, if I'm not wrong, um, there was even a perfume named after Nona Gaprindashvili, and there were stamps after some more female chess players. So, stamps as in the postcards. Thanks, Avdut. Let's start, guys. Let's start. I hope everything is fine. Thanks, Seema. My best game. Well, my best game is well, it's hard to say which one, but hi, Nerd Junction. It is MAIA, not MIA. टूर्नामेंट अल्फियस आज नहीं यार, टूर्नामेंट नहीं आज, आज कुछ अलग करते हैं। आज सिर्फ विमेन चेस प्लेयर्स की गेम्स देखेंगे। तो दिस वाज प्लेड बिटवीन ग्रीनफील्ड एलन एंड कोनेरू हम्पी, and she played this game really well. But okay, let's not start with Koneru Hempi. Let's start with the world champion right now, who's Ju and Ju. Let's start with her game first, and then we can go to Konirampin. Maybe the final one can be her game. So this was played between Anna Mushchuk and Zhu and Zhu in 2010, so very long back. And this was a very interesting game. So let's begin with that. E4, C5. Let's flip the board because Zhu and Zhu was black here. She is the current world champion, women's world champion. Knight f3, d6, d4, takes, knight f6, knight c3, a6, bishop e2. And this was a new variation back then for Mushchuk. And also, Anna Mushchuk was also a former world champion. So this was a great game. e5, knight b3, bishop e7, castles, and now king h1. So here the better continuation is f4, and it can lead to some really tactical positions, but she chose to play king h1. Hi Rohit. Okay, Alfie, no issue. Yeah, Rohit. Even I'm streaming after I think even I'm streaming so late after a long time. I usually am playing against the players, or I'm playing some simults. So like a stream, I'm doing it after a very long time. b6. Okay, I'm just going to fast forward the opening because it's not that important. The later part of the game is very interesting. f3 just to protect the e4 pawn, and to make sure that in case of b4 you have this overprotected. a4. Here queen d2 was possible just to connect the rooks and maybe then have some maneuver with the knight like this. It's possible, but here of course a4, b4, knight d5, knight into d5, e into d5. And you might be wondering that usually we want to piece on d5, but here in this case we don't want that because this bishop is sort of blocked, the knight isn't developed yet, and you can always attack this point because there's no defender to the h7 square right now. Also we can keep on playing f4, or the queen can go to h5, so we have a lot of possibilities here in this position. Knight d7, c3, takes, and now even the b file is pretty open. But here I think c3 was not a great move. There could be something else because now this pawn is really weak, and black will now get some counterplay on these two open files. So white isn't doing anything right now. If white wastes any more time, then it will be very difficult for white to come back in the game and attack black king. Bishop g5. As you can see, already exchanges have started taking place. Bishop f2, queen c7, c4, and now this square is really weak. If I manage to get a knight here, if I manage to attack, or if I manage to attack this pawn, it will be great as black. a5. a5 is a good move because it's fixing the pawn on a4. Very well played by Zhu and Zhu. And now bishop a6. So we just attack this pawn right here because it's a weakness, and you want to play rook c8, rook b8, and maybe one move can be h6 just to get rid of the back rank. Prajwal, when is that? I wasn't aware of that. Yes, Rohit, I will be covering a Judith Polgar game. I will be. I just thought we can start with the world champion, the current world champion. So it's Zhu and Zhu. Rook b1, rook a b8, queen c3, and queen c3, rook f d1 was also an option. Queen c3 is not a good move, like it's a normal move, but she could have played rook f d1. And then the idea basically is to develop the rook, so you have bishop e1 and then you can attack this pawn right here. So that is the deep idea behind this move. Queen c3 is a normal move, but I think you have to strike when the iron is hot, so that's why rook d1 and bishop e1 was necessary. f5, so black starts his attack, her attack I mean. Rook fc1, knight c5, bishop e1. So she is a move late, and now she will understand what happens because of that. Rook into b8 takes, queen into a5, and now can you guess the move, guys? What do you think should be the move? Should you exchange? Should you move the queen somewhere? What should be the move? What will be your decision here? Okay, I wasn't aware of that, Prajwal. If it's on 22nd, yes, we can cover that. Thanks, Pratik. Ravi Teja, c4 pawn, it's not required to defend this one. I mean, queen c3 was not required. Queen c3 was basically like a waste of move, because anyways you want to capture on a5, right? Okay, take the queen and knight b3. That is your choice. Okay. Rook b1. Rook b1 is a mistake, Aryan. I mean, can't I just take? I can just take this. Oh, you mean after this takes knight b3 and then rook b1? Yeah, you're right. You're right. That is the idea. And that's why you did not capture. She saw this. And also there is one positional reason for this. Because your opponent has double bishops, you should avoid exchanging too many pieces, and especially the queens, because that will be your counter attack for the double bishops, because in the end game they are really active, and once the position opens up, it's amazing for the bishops. Krishna Sharma, thank you so much. Thanks, Aniket. Yes, rook b1 आ रहा है प्रतीक. You're right. So इसीलिए she played queen b7. Just a second, guys. Something happened to my laptop again. So queen b7 was played. And now here there was this move queen a5, b into a5. And now instead of knight b3, there is also rook b2. Because rook b2, rook e1, king f7, bishop c7. These are all the probable moves, and they are not forced, but they are the best moves possible for both the players. King e7, a5, and then knight a4. And then you will try to play this and somehow try to attack this bishop and the pawn indirectly, but this was unclear. But okay, queen b7, queen c3. Again, it's not a good move, because the queen on a5 was at least doing something, and you moved the queen so many times. You played queen d2, then queen c3, queen a5, and again you returned queen c3. So instead of this, there was a better move, which was probably to play something like rook d1, just to protect this, or just to make sure that just to waste a move basically. But queen c3, the problem is that queen will be hanging, and in case of a move like queen b2, you always have to be worried about the exchange of queens, and then black will have the 7th rank. Queen b2, and now this knight is extremely strong. Knight into a4, queen b2, rook b2, king g1, and this is one of her best games. Knight c5, and now what do you think should be played, guys? What is the first thing that you think about? Hi, Aritra. Pratik, yes. Rook b2 is good. Hi, Rachit, after a very long time. Guys, we may not have enough people today, because I think I did not schedule the stream on time. Hi Tanish, thank you everyone. Yeah, so here, what do you think should be played? Should you play bishop c3? Should you play this move? Or do you want to just go g3 and then maybe something to do with bishop h3? Bishop b4 cannot be played, it's hanging. Raviteja. Bishop f2 makes sense because you want to capture here and then you want to have this passed pawn. So it's possible. nb3 looks interesting, yes. Yeah, so there are many options here, but bishop c3 is the best because as we all know, the rook on the 7th rank is always scary. So you should try to exchange this one. And if, for instance, the rook moves back, then it's fine for you. The position is manageable for white. But if in case rook a2, then you can even play rook b1 or you can play rook a1, try to exchange this rook. Seema, bishop f2 is also fine. Bishop f2 is also fine, just that bishop c3 is more precise because the idea is to just move the rook from the 7th rank. That's the purpose of this move. Oh, okay. Good luck, Rachit. Good luck for the exams. Guys, I am sure or many of you might have exams, so good luck for that. So bishop c3 was important. Rook a1 was what was played in the game. And rook a1 is not a bad move. But now rook a1, since the rook has moved from the c file, this rook will come to c2 and start attacking this pawn. That is the major issue behind rook a1. Rook c2, bishop f2, bishop into c4, bishop into c5, d into c5. And now after d6, what do you think should be played? Okay, this is simple. Let me tell you this one. King f7, rook d1. And now what do you think should be played? SST was one of my favorites actually. SST is social studies, right? बहुत सीखने को मिलता है यार हिस्ट्री से. History is fun, guys. History is fun. Sir, I think I'll ask Sahil. If he wants to join in. Let me quickly call him. In fact, he might join us. Let me ask him. Just give me a second, guys. Just a second, guys. Yeah, guys. So Sahil is busy, so he probably won't join us today. I thought so. But okay. Towards the end, even I can try to organize a tournament. And I think Purvi is still here. I'm not too sure. King e8. Okay. Yeah, king e8 is pretty much forced. King e8, bishop into c4, because if you do anything of this sort, there's always d7. He won't take this bishop, and you should always be on the look for such intermediate moves. And it may look as if you are losing a piece, but of course you are queening, just if you calculate a bit. So king e8 forced, bishop into c4, rook c4, rook d5, king d7. And now if you take, I will just take here. I am not worried about giving up this pawn. This pawn is much stronger than the two pawns here. So even if I lose any one of these, I'll still end up queening. That's why this doesn't work. Is now rook c1. I mean, this was a mistake to give up this pawn so quickly. Maybe getting the king was slightly more correct. Or here, in fact, black should have played rook c1 first, just to make sure that if the king comes up, then you always have this f4 move. Otherwise, if the king goes to f1 or e1, the king is stuck behind, and the king cannot be improved any further. Okay, king d7, takes. And here rook c1 was played. Rook c2 was also possible, but rook c1, king f2. And again, here, what do you think should be the move, guys? It's a critical move. Like, if you can guess this move, then you can decide if you like endgames more or you like calculation more, because it depends on your choice. There are two moves which are correct, but now you will understand if you are more of a endgame player or more of a calculation expert. Like, hi Jaikant. Guys, do like this stream, and if you're here for the first time, do subscribe to the channel. What do you think, guys? What should we play? c4? Seema, yes, c4 is more calculation based, and there's another move. Let's wait if anyone can answer the move. g6, okay. King e6, okay. Well, there is no problem with king e6, but you want the king close to the pawn, so why do you want to take it away? I mean, you want the king to go this side to hide behind the pawn. For like, there can be some checks here, so you just want to hide behind the pawn, and you also want to support this pawn in its advance with the king, not with the rook, because sooner or later you want this rook to move away because it's on the queening square. And if you keep the rook on c1, and if this pawn manages to go to c2 and this rook comes to c8, then, I mean, in a position like this, you will have problems moving the rook. You need the king. So that's why king e6 makes less sense. Rook d1. Yeah, rook d1 is interesting. Your idea is interesting to block the king. But rook d1, you are just giving your opponent a tempo because he will attack your rook here. So that is the problem. Ravi Teja, king c6 is possible again. But why do you want to play king c6 when you can push the pawn to c4 and go king c5, and you will basically save a move, right? If you play king c5 and not king c6. So that is the small difference here. The correct move, I would say, is rook c2. Alpheus rook h1, I don't think is correct because you want the rook to be on this side of the board. You don't want to move it here, so rook c2 is correct. The idea is simple. You are making your opponent choose, because if he goes here, he loses a pawn. I mean, white loses the pawn. And if she plays a move like king f1, again, the king is stuck here forever on the first rank. It cannot move. And in the end game, it's extremely important to get the king. The king's activity is the most crucial in the end game, because all of the pieces are throughout the game, all the pieces are moved, but during the end game, you need the king to actually help you with the activity and to support the pawns, or just to have an edge over your opponent, because your opponent is also without any danger, so there is no attack on the king in the end game. So kings can roam around freely, and if your opponent is in the center, your opponent's king, then he is better, because king's activity is extremely crucial. So that's why if the king is stuck on the first rank, it will be horrible for white. Yes, Seema and Avzat, rook c2 is the move. If, for instance, king g3, then again, the king is stuck on the wrong side of the board. It should be here on d3 or e3, but it's not there. So on g3, it's worsely placed. So rook c2 is important. But okay, when Jinju decided to play c4 with the idea of playing king c5 and king here, not wasting any tempo. Rook f8, and such small intricacies make them world champion, guys, because if you don't play accurately in endgames, rook endgames can be drawn very quickly. Imagine these two pawns are not here and then you just give up this rook for the pawn. 3 pawns can be a draw, and that's why we don't want to take any risk. Alpheus, that's fine, it happens. Rook c2, king g3, and now rook e2. So now that we know the king has moved here, now we use, I think Devash mentioned that we have to block the king. So we have to block the king, but on the e file, because now it cannot be attacked very quickly. And also we have enough space for our king to maneuver and also hide from the checks and push the pawn. It's always a typical maneuver with the king. You go king c5 and then d4 to push the pawn, and then you hide behind the pawn like this with king c3, and then you go king d2 or king b2 and push the pawn. Rook c8, king d5, rook c7, and now what do you think should we play, guys? Should you play king d4 or should you try to just save these pawns? Okay, I really like this game because it was well played and it was played between two world champions, women world champions. Hi Purvi. Happy Women's Day, Purvi. Hi Saurabh. So what do you think? What do you think, guys? Should you give up the g7 and h7 pawn, or should you play king d4 to push c3? I mean, should you play g6 or should you play king d4? King d4? Well, king d4 is something even which I thought, and I was actually thinking about this. I thought it's completely winning. But the problem here is there's not enough time actually. It's not enough time because after rook c7, you have to play this move and he'll start pushing his pawns. So maybe a move like f4. I mean, it's too complicated. There is something simpler. You don't have to go in such depth. Here, basically, the correct move is to play g6. You don't want to give the pawn. You want to play g6 because at least you have one pawn here and then you retain some play. You're not giving all the pawns to your opponent. So even white will have to think a lot before sacrificing his rook. Thanks, Saurav. Thanks, Master Blaster. Glad you enjoyed. By the way, which one did you take? I'm not too sure which one. c3, rook c7, c2, king f4. And now you will understand the difference, guys. The move here is g5. The idea behind g5 is after takes, you take here or you play this move, and then after rook c3, can you guess the move, guys? It's easy now. There was a reason why g5 was correct. Can you guess the move? Oh, that's nice, Master Blaster. That's amazing. Guys, do like this stream, and if you're here for the first time, do subscribe. Thanks, Amarish. Yeah, Tempo Raviteja, you're on the right track. Your idea is correct, but what should be the move here? There's a reason why we got the king to g5. We basically forced the king to go to g5. Hi Kaustubh. Thanks Kaustubh. Maneuver is basically a plan which you follow basically with your pieces. Guys, the move is rook e5. You give a check here, and after the king moves, maybe to f6, you play rook c5. That was the idea. And now, if he gives the rook, your king is closer to the pawns. So in the initial variation that we saw, the king was here basically. So it takes a lot of time to get the king. And king on d6 is much better placed because it's closer to the pawns and to the queening square. Takes, g4, rook into h2. You basically win a pawn by force here. There is no way in which you can save a pawn. I mean white. Takes, g5, rook f2, g6, takes. And now if the king goes here, then you basically just get the king. Because for this, you have this and you control the queening square basically with your king. And for a move like king g7, you play king e7, king g8, king f6, very important move, g7, rook g3, king h8, and now can you guess the move, guys? It's too simple, but still. I've made a mistake in a rapid game like this. I just captured here. It's a stalemate. So king f7 is the move and black won the game. It was a nice game without any positional or tactical errors. It basically was just played on the fact that white wasted a lot of moves with the queen, like queen d2, queen c3, queen e5, and queen c3. Those 4 moves, and Anna Mishchuk basically lost because of those moves. re5, rf5. Okay, you mean rc5. Yes, Alpheus, that's correct. I think Pratik, it's because आज Women's Day है तो इसीलिए पूर्वी is here. It's not a draw. You have king f7 and then it's not a draw. Rook g7, however, is a mistake. Okay, guys, let's go to the next one, which was played by Judith Polgar against Nigel Short, and I'm sure you might have heard about this game or you've seen this game because it's really tactical and some crazy, insane lines in this one. So e4, c5. Again, most women, top women chess players play the Sicilian, and it's very attacking. d5, takes, d4. This was played in 1995, so it's basically before I was born. It was played between Nigel Short and Judith Polgar. Okay, knight c6, knight f3, bishop g4, bishop e2, e6. Here long castle is possible, but e6 was played. I'm going to quickly rush to the opening because that is not much of relevance to us. h3, bishop h5, c4, queen d6. And now if you check, it is pretty much like theory, like all of these lines. They were played in 1995. So back then, there were not many games and they used to study games from informant. But now with computers and everything, it's very easy to get the games. Bishop g6, d5, knight b4, castles. And you might be wondering, why did he castle on this side of the board? The thing was that, of course, he's not developed here, and if he places his king in the center just as black still can castle, and when he does, he will quickly open the e file. So that is the issue. And also, of course, there is threats like knight c2, knight d3 also taking here. So that's why he chose to castle, I mean an ideal shot. Queen a4 was of course possible. I mean, it comes into consideration because it exchanges of the queens, and without the queens on the board, it's slightly easier for white probably, because um, at least the king won't come under attack. Yes, all of these are weaknesses. But okay, castles. ed5. ed5 is something which I would think twice before capturing, especially when the rook can go to this file. Hi Shreyash. And now can you guess the move, guys? Can you guess the move for black? Hi Harshal. What do you think should be the move, guys? It's a very cool move which was played right now. NF6, okay. Yeah, it's a possibility to attack here. Any other move? So here, basically, of course, bishop e7, knight f6, such moves are possible. Queen into d5, however, is not a good move, sort of. It looks as if you're winning a pawn, but you will come under lots of attack because of bishop e5 check and rook e1 coming, and this bishop also can go to g5, knights can go to e5, c3. Black will suddenly be under a lot of pressure after queen into d5. Yes, Saviteja, you have the move. You are right. Yeah, castles is the move. Long castle, guys, because you want to attack this pawn, but you also want the king to be safe. And it looks slightly absurd to get the king to this side of the board because you've moved the c pawn. But of course, you also have such moves coming in, and black has to be careful here. But still, even after all of this, it's better to castle here because we take advantage of this g4 weakness. We will start with h5 or knight f6 and we will have our own threats. Padmesh, h5 you can play later on. So I think your idea was correct. Maybe when your opponent played a move like rook e1, you would have long castled. But long castle right now is a great move. या गाइज महाराष्ट्र में टूर्नामेंट्स नहीं होंगे इतने जल्दी बिकॉज बहुत सारे केसेस है too many cases in Maharashtra right now. I think yesterday they were around 11,000 or 10,000 cases alone in Maharashtra. So I don't think there'll be any tournaments. There are a few tournaments in Indore and few other places. Okay, so NC3. And now can you guess the move again? So now we play Harshal's move. We play knight f6. Queen a4, a6. And here Koneru Hampi is not at all afraid of the position of the king here. It's absolutely safe on c8. There's nothing happening. It may look as if there is knight b5 and then after takes there can be some threats here, but there is nothing of that sort because this king is too exposed again. Can you guess the move here? I think this move is very important. Sort of, yes, I can. Yeah, technically I'm a yoga instructor, guys. So yeah, I can do like few asanas. Hi, Apurv. Apurv Telang. Hi. I think right now, currently she is number 3, right? in ratings. I think so. I mean, in the world. She had a great comeback, guys. I mean, Humpy had a great comeback. She basically had a child and then she came back to chess. She left chess for, I think, 1 or 2 years, but then she came back just like Mary Kom. That's pretty inspirational. Okay, so here bishop c2 is the move, and I think Seema wanted to say bishop c2, but she said king c2. Yeah, bishop c2 is the move, you're right. And knight c2, knight d4. Okay, the idea I understand. You want to employ this knight in the central squares, but the problem is after this there can be some threats, like for instance I'm not too sure here, but I'm still worried about such moves like bishop f4 and then some sacrifices around this a6 pawn. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't like nc2 that much, because right now you have bishop c2, which is more forcing. It also traps the queen here, and it basically provokes b3. So after b3, now you can take here. Now this pawn is weak, first of all, and the queen is tied to the pawn. This bishop is taking control of the d1 square, so there is no rook d1 pinning the knight here. That's why bishop c2 was crucial. Ravish, I think Sahil had some work, so that's why he's not here. And today was Women's Day, so he was like, I think you should stream. So I was like, yeah, sure. Takes. Bishop f4. Queen into b3. Queen a5. Knight d5. And you might be wondering that isn't black scared right now, because so many threats are coming in. The bishop is basically lined up here. The queen is also looking at the king, and bishop into a6 is a threat always, because you will have crisscross mating patterns because of the bishops and the queen. And also this rook is ready to go to b1 or c1 and attack the king. So many pieces are going for the black king. Black doesn't really have any pieces going on at the white king, but still it's a much better position for black, because bishop e5, f6, bishop g3, and now comes the crucial move, guys. And after this, this is the last move of the game. Like, the game went on, but this was very crucial. So what do you think should be played here? Bishop c4, when exactly? Here, a4 is hanging, and in case after this, then c4 is hanging, f4 is hanging as well. So that's the problem. Okay, I think I kind of revealed the move. The move is queen c3, guys. Important move. And after this, black is much better, and Judith Polgar basically won the game. I wanted to show you one very tactical variation, which was knight into d5 here. Takes, rook d5, bishop c4, rook d8, knight e5, f6. And now what do you think should be played, guys? Ravi Teja, no, it's actually better for black, that position, the final one after knight c3. So basically you just take bishop f4. The bishops are extremely strong. Bishop d6, takes, and then you just win the game, because this knight cannot be developed easily. And also you have this h3 pawn, which is weak, so it's unclear, but I would like to play with white here. Let's go to the next game, guys, quickly. Okay, this was played between Hao Yufan and Li Guanglim, who is a 2700 player, and Hao Yufan won the game. It was played in Gibraltar in 2012. Yes, I'll do that. I'll do that sometime soon. So I think we'll see this game, and maybe we'll see one more game and then we'll stop. Or maybe after this game we can have a stream and I can show you Humpy's game maybe in a different stream. Okay, so e4, c5. As I mentioned, c5 is always played in a top level. Let's flip the board. And now Hao Yufan is white. Knight f3, d6, d4, takes, and f6, knight c3, a6, f4, e6, Cavan engine. e5 is also possible, but okay, e6, bishop e2, and this is the main line in the classical Cavan engine, or also called as Cavan engine. Queen c7, castles, bishop e7, king h1. Is anyone does anyone play this here? It's a tricky line, guys. It's a tricky line. Hi Shreyas, we are looking at games of top female players. This is game analysis, Shreyas. This was played between Hao Yufan and Li Guanglim, who's a 2700 player, and Hao Yufan is a former world champion. I think she's number 1 in right now rating. Oh, you play French, okay. Alright, so castles, a4. a4 is a crucial move. It's usually played to prevent a move like b5. It's a very typical idea to play b5 and this move. So maybe just to prevent that, you play a4. In c6, bishop e3, rook e8, bishop f3. And this basically position was also played in Kasparov's games against, I think, Anand. And I remember there was one game which Kasparov played against Anand where he played bishop b3, bishop e2 and bishop f3. So he got a very similar position. But I think it was not in this opening. It was in a different opening. Knight a5, bishop f2. This is slightly less threatening. Bishop g1 is also possible. Rook can go to, I think knight d2, that knight d2 is also possible. All of these moves are possible, and they are worth considering. अच्छा बॉन्ग क्लाउड का एडवांस वेरिएशन भी है really? I've never played Bonk Cloud, guys. I've never played it. I cannot even say Bonk Cloud properly. Okay, so knight a5, bishop f2 was played. Knight goes back, queen e1, b6, and now I'm going to fast forward to an important move because this is almost like an opening plan. And Shreya, since you are wondering how to plan, so I think you should always be on the look for improving your pieces, and if you manage to improve your pieces, you will come up with a plan. Because for instance, right now, what does b6 do? It basically develops the bishop, it protects the knight, and basically after developing this bishop, you're connecting the rook. So it's in a way a plan. e5, bishop b7, bishop g3. It's a novelty here. Takes, rook ac8, rook d1. A very interesting move. And can you try to evaluate the position? Who's better, guys? Who do you think is better? Like whose position do you like more? Is it white's position or is it black's position? Hi Saurabh. Hi guys. So whose position do you like the most? White or black? Who do you prefer? White? Okay, just because who you fan is white. Okay. So guys, white is better. I mean, it's not like he's better. I mean, who you fan is not really better according to the engine, but play-wise, it's very easy for white to make the moves. I mean, the rooks are on the open file. The bishops have some job here. The knights are better placed compared to opponent's knight, and the king is safe here. While as for black, the space is slightly less as compared to white. And yes, the compensation for black is that e5 is really weak, but black also has this knight which is not doing anything as of now. It can go to c4 and attack this pawn, but as of now it's not doing anything. And this bishop is it's well placed. This knight cannot go to f6, which is crucial because h7 cannot be guarded otherwise. So black has some problems when it comes to coordinating his pieces, but it's of course not bad. But white has some he will find it easy. White will find it easy to plan out things. Bishop b4, and now this comes with a tactical sequence because queen f2 is played and rook f8. And now what do you think should be played, guys? An important move again. Yeah, e5 pawn matters. You're right. Rahul, perfect. A knight on rim is dim. Knight b8 and knight c6. Shreyas, your plan is nice, but actually it's this knight which is not well placed. This knight can maybe go to f8, or I mean it could go to f8, or um, it attacks this pawn. So this knight is well placed. You have to improve knight on a5. Otherwise, that's a nice plan because you want to attack here. Instead of bishop b4, okay. Yeah, but again, you don't want to move this knight from here because at least it can defend the h7 pawn. And if you don't know, guys, h7 and h2 are extremely weak once the kings have castled on the king side, because you cannot really guard this pawn with any other piece. You don't have a pawn which supports this. If you move this, there's only g pawn which protects the h pawn. You don't have an extra pawn outside the board. So usually after castling, the rook pawns are really difficult to protect, and that's why you require the knights near your king, and that's why we place the knights on f6 or f3 mostly to protect h2, h7, or the knights go to f8 or f1 to protect here. Otherwise, knight b8, knight c6 is a possible maneuver. Yeah, because king is the most important after all, and if you maneuver really well, I mean, you do amazing, you plan out a great maneuver with your knight, but then your king is not safe, so it's not really going to help you a lot because king is the most important piece after all. So bishop b4, and Hu Yifan is very great. I mean, she's very amazing at tactics and calculation. Her combinations are really well. I mean, she sees patterns, and right now there is one more which you have to see. What do you think should be played here? Saurabh, okay, Saurabh. Alright guys, I tell you the move. The move is basically knight e4, and it's very important to play this because you want to go knight f6. And now Shreyas, I think you will understand this, because now if the knight was on b8, it becomes very easy for white to just give up a knight here because there is nothing defending here. Um, f6 with black, e6 is hanging, Rahul. That's the issue. And if you mean on the previous move, if f6 here, then I think I can take also because this bishop has a discovery here. So that's why knight e4. Yeah, Avdut. Just h4 you don't have to play. You have one open file. Usually h4 is played. It's played when you have a triangle here. Especially if you have f7, g6 and h7. Then you play h4 and h5 because you want to open a file. H file you want to open up. Or you want to take control of the darkened squares, weakened dark squares here, which is g7 and h6. So usually you play h4, h5 when there is a triangle here. Otherwise, it's not required. You have f file which is open, I think. f6, ef6, and that's why rook f8 was played. Knight e4, knight into e5, and now bishop f4. So a nice move because queen goes to g3 now, threatening knight f6 and also threatening this knight here. Bishop into e4 takes, bishop d6, knight f3, f5, and now can you try to guess the move? Thanks, Apur. Okay, so here basically bishop into e5, guys. Bishop into e5 is important. And here knight d4 was interesting. Knight d4, because if you take, then there is knight into e6, queen c6, and things are about to get complicated because knight into f8. And after all of this, queen d4. So a lot of complications here, and white has some play. So instead of this here, bishop into e5 is slightly better because you're avoiding the complications and also you're keeping the play. You're not giving up or exchanging pieces. Takes, and now bishop d3, bishop into b2. So this was a mistake, and after this, not really a mistake, it was slightly dubious. Bishop f6 was more natural because you want to safeguard your king and not go for or not invite trouble. But here after rook b1, suddenly there is this b6 weakness. Gizmo, that's correct. That's what was played, just in a modified way because you just want to activate the rook first, gain a tempo here, attack this, and then go for knight g5. And now queen e3. So if you just look at the position, it's not like white is materially up and he is completely winning, but there are so many weaknesses in black's position that it compensates, and all of these pieces, I mean not the knight, all of these pawns are going to be captured, and even the knight has no squares. It's out of the game. Knight c4. Knight c4 was played because the knight was not doing anything. So finally, something to do with the knight. Takes. Rook b6. The first pawn is recovered. Soon the second and the third pawn will be recovered. Queen d3, bishop d4, queen d3. Takes. Rook e6, queen a3. And now there were some traps, especially, can you see what happens to this move? Can you guess the move, guys? Now comes a lot of tactics here. Many tactics are possible. So just try to guess. Hi, Gizmo girl. Rahul, well, yeah, knights are tricky, and whenever they're close to the king, there can be some forks, but you just have to be the easiest way to have control over the board, especially when it comes to knights, is whenever a knight is in a dark square, it only goes to light squares. So remember that, and you won't come under any forks, because usually when you realize you have pieces on dark squares, the knight can only attack them when it's in light squares. So just remember this, it helps when you're trying to recognize forks or double attacks with the knight, that is. Queen f5, okay. Queen f5 is too much, guys. Queen f5 is too much, because firstly I can't take queen, can go to f8, f8 is under control. So not queen f5, guys. Knight h7, knight h7 is interesting, but something else, something more direct in a way. nh7 is winning for sure. I don't know, it looks like you're exposing the king a bit, but you also have to be careful about rook a1, because if one pair of rooks get exchanged here, then you will just have two pieces in the attack, which is basically your this rook and the queen, and usually two pieces are not enough to attack or checkmate the king. So that's why you shouldn't sacrifice. Rahul, I don't know if you kind of foresaw what c3 is actually doing, but c3 is the move, guys. c3 is the move. Of the rook e8, I could just take. There was nothing after rook e8. So c3 is the move, guys. And after c3, bishop into c3. Now you play what Avdut just mentioned, and even Shriyansh. You basically play rook e8 now, because after this you have a smothered mate because of the typical smothered mate here. So that was possible. And that's why you cannot take with the bishop. If you take with the queen, however, now you come to the correct idea, queen f5. So you got the ideas, but since the queen was defending here, it's not doing it right now. So now you can play queen f5, because after it takes, there is no queen f8 or rook f8. f8 is not control. If you go back, it's a checkmate. So that was the small trick involved, and queen b4 looks very obvious, but it's a blunder. सौरभ मूव क्या था यार? क्वीन c3, अच्छा क्वीन c3 is too much. Queen c3 is too much. इतना क्वीन सैक्रिफाइस मैं भी नहीं सोच सकती. It's too much. Well, if you think about rook e8 and queen f5, you will understand there is a problem here. Either you cannot give a check because of the bishop, or the f8 square is controlled. And if you try to think logically, then after c3, either of the pieces have to be displaced. So if queen goes here, then f8 is not controlled. If the bishop moves, then you have queen d5. So it's not blocking the queen's check now. So that's why c3, queen b4 was of course not played. Queen g5, you might be wondering. So what happens to queen g5? Gizmo girl, yeah, it's very beautiful. This one was really beautiful, the c3 move. And I think Hu Yufan must be around, I think she was, how old? I think 15 or 16 when she played this game. Okay, queen g5, there is one interesting move. Okay, you all got it. You're right. Queen b3 is the move, threatening this rook here and also threatening rook e8 and then rook f8 checkmate. You're right. So that's why knight g5 was beautiful. Queen a3 was played. Queen e2 with the same idea. You want to go rook e8. h6. And now what do you think should be played? Some nice tactics here as well. Rahul, yes, it is, because 5 plus 5 is more than 9. Queen has 9 points. So 2 rooks are good enough for playing against the queen. In fact, I think the queen has to be careful, especially when playing against 2 rooks, because um, usually what happens is 2 rooks can be like, they can support each other, and if your king and queen are supporting a pawn, your opponent can just capture the pawn, and you basically, if white has 2 rooks, black has 2 pawns and or 1 pawn and a queen, then he can just give up the rooks and you have to take, and either he'll get the draw if he wants, and if the position is such where the white has 2 rooks and 2 pawns, black has a queen and 2 pawns, in that case you can just give up your 2 rooks for a pawn, and then you will be a pawn up. So I don't know if you could understand what I just said, but maybe I'll show you a position. Rook into h6, rook into h6. Yes. Rook into h6 is the move. You are right. Rook into h6 is a brilliant move, guys, because g into h6, queen e6, king g7, queen d7. I'm going slow because it's very interesting. King g6. And now comes an interesting move, guys. Can you guess the move now? Now is a move which we can call silent killer, because it's not doing anything as such. It's not a check, it's not a capture, but it's extremely threatening. Purvi, yes, you're right. Rook into h6. Guys, if you found this, that's amazing, because you understand what initiative is, because you are ready to give up a rook just for a pawn, just so that you can get some initiative or expose the king. So that's great. Yeah, Gizmo girl, of course. It depends on the position, but generally, 2 rooks are basically, you have 2 pieces, right? So even if you just count the pieces, not by the points, but just count the pieces, then you have more army than your opponent. Just as 3 pieces, 3 minor pieces, that is 2 knights and 1 bishop, or 2 bishop and 1 knight, are good enough against a queen in most cases, and even sometimes better. Like, yeah, if the king goes to h8, then of course queen h6 and queen h7 is checkmate. But now what? Guys, it's not a check, it's not a capture, but just in case you want to see, queen e6, the problem is king goes back, and then you will have to repeat. हमें h4 में the problem, the thing is, the bishop goes back, and it kind of guards black's position, right? Okay, maybe not here because f5 is hanging, but the bishop basically moves somewhere, maybe here, and then all of these threats are possible. You are also exposing your own king. Knight e6, yes, knight e6 is the move. Harshal, you're right. So now the main idea here is you're attacking too many things. You're attacking the rook, And this queen is overloaded. It's supporting both the rooks. Also, you have some ideas with knight f4 and giving a check here. So many things are happening, and it's very difficult for black to find a defense here. Black made a mistake. He played bishop c5. And now what do you think should be played? Queen h7, then king goes to h5. Purvi, the king escapes. So what do you think should be played now? So here you have options. You can take this, because if he takes, then you can take here. So you have one option, two option, three option. The fourth option is this. Yeah, so all of these are options for you. बैक रैंक इतने जल्दी नहीं होगी यार. बैक रैंक ओनली इफ यू कैप्चर बैक रैंक होगी. Queen g7, yes, that's correct. Queen g7 is correct. And now there is a mating net. King h5 and f8, bishop f8. And now can you find the mate, guys? Or at least the win? Yeah, queen g7 is tempting. Yes, queen g7 looks like the best move there, because it's forcing and also it's directly giving some attack. So I think usually when you move your queen close to your opponent's king, it's always scary for the opponent. Okay, queen f7 was played, but rook f5, king h4, g3, king h3, rook h5, rook h4, and you have a mate here. You can also play this, I think. Yeah, this is also a checkmate. This is also a checkmate. So you have variety of checkmates here. And this was the game, guys. And it was a very well played game by Huyu Fan. She attacked very fiercely, especially rook into h6, and the c3 move, the trap she set with c3 was very interesting. And calculating the whole combination after rook h6 and queen e6, queen d7, then also seeing knight e6 on top of that here, it was very interesting. So this was the game by Huyu Fan. She is extremely tactical, one of the strongest. I hope you like this game, guys. This is one of my favorites. Yeah, there are a few puzzles where it's like you can checkmate in 4 moves in 3 or 4 different ways. There are such puzzles. My game against Sahil, okay, I think I've shown that before. Thanks, Gizmo Girl. Okay, guys, I think we can stop the stream for today. I don't know why my throat slightly hurts. And maybe I'll show you tomorrow a few games by Humpy, or maybe day after. Or let's see, like we'll have a separate day for Konero Humpy, because of course, like there are so many games. And she's also extremely combinational, and she has a great feel for intuition. So we can do that later. I think we should stop on this because it was such a nice game, right? Actually, I kind of did not show you a few lines which were very tactical, but it was too sharp even for me to understand. So it was too deep. Thanks, Gizmo. Thank you so much. So, guys, I'll see you tomorrow or day after. It depends on when Sahil streams. If he chooses to stream tomorrow, I'll see you day after. And maybe we can have a Simon day after or have a look at more such games. And Nigel Short is someone, the previous game basically. Nigel Short is someone uh, who had the king walk. So maybe we can see that game, the one with the king walk. Gizmo, which lines? Amir, Sahil had some work today. Okay, bye guys. Do take care. Cool guys. See you tomorrow or day after. Bye guys. Take care. And happy Women's Day to Gizmo, Purvi, um, Seema, and all the women out there. Do take care. Bye guys.